It's one thing to understand how a car is made, but that doesn't mean you can drive it. The same is true with the golden section. Now that you know about it, you'll begin to see it everywhere. But seeing it as the proportion of a window on a modern building doesn't help me with a design layout solution. So the question is, how am I supposed to use the thing? I've used the golden section and its ratio on a variety of projects. It can be the basis of the proportion of a book, a containing shape, a way to organize text and images. This is my process. I have a saved vector art file of the golden section and rectangle I made in Adobe Illustrator. You can either draw the rectangle and section yourself using the geometric formula, or download the file here in the exercise files. I placed this file on my page as an underlying guide. Now, sometimes it won't fit the page or screen size exactly, but that's okay. This isn't a test in hardcore Swiss typography. Unfortunately, few people will take the project and measure the elements with a metric ruler. Once the golden section diagram is placed, I use it as a grid to size and place the text. I line up the base of the headline and use a vertical axis to locate the subhead. I can also use it as a basic proportion for the image as a containing form. Once the grid is invisible, the elements work together harmoniously using the same proportions. Here, I don't want to make the white space on the top arbitrary. If it has no relationship to the image size, it lacks harmony. By applying the golden section, I can lower the image to create negative space that now relates mathematically to the image size. The typography, previously clumped together, is now placed to fit within the same proportional structure. Each piece of information now has its own presence by separating the blocks of text and aligning with the grid. The result is a layout that is asymmetrical but feels balanced and pleasing. Every element and the negative space relate to each other. The proportion can serve as a device to organize disparate elements. On this book cover, I wanted the title to be large, but secondary to the title Lost Worlds, as if it were lost. Using the golden section to determine placement gave the cover a strong dynamic. It also held the three elements together, even though they were unrelated visually. Applying the golden section to a layout is a great guide, an almost foolproof way to create a harmonious form. Once again, this isn't a straitjacket. Use the golden section as a guide, but you're still the boss. Let's revisit the idea of balance here. If the layout on the page is too even, or if the negative and positive spaces are equal, the layout loses energy. We've seen how the golden section can serve as a guide. And now, another option. A layout can be more interesting and dynamic based on the rule of thirds. A centered and even balanced layout is too calm. It creates no tension. The viewer is not challenged in any way. Everything is answered. There is nothing for the viewer to question. Why bother? The communication will simply be ignored. As human beings, we like to create order from chaos. We organize our friends into distinct groups. We create structures to contain our socks from our t-shirts. When we see a layout divided into thirds, we try to organize the asymmetry into a cohesive and understandable image. It forces us to question, is that symmetrical or asymmetrical? Is that balanced? Remember, the longer I can keep a viewer interested, the more he or she will retain the information. Artists and photographers use the rule of thirds to great success. A static image is brought to life by rearranging the composition to avoid simply centering the subject. Paul Strand's photograph of a family in Italy is dynamic and compelling with an asymmetrical layout based on the rule of thirds. Strand not only divided the subjects vertically into 3 groups, but used the same approach horizontally. It's a system that works just as successfully with composition and layout. Just like using the square proportion and golden section, begin by creating a set of guides using the rule of thirds. The layout is divided into 3 parts, either vertically, horizontally, or both. Add your content and get to work, rearranging the elements within this structure. If you like a solution, save it, but keep exploring. You might land on something unexpected. Elements are placed within these spaces. Focal points are placed where the lines intersect. Once the basic structure is in place, I can begin working with details such as typography, color, and pattern. Make sure to print the layouts out and look at them together. It's tempting to only look at it on the screen, but the successful layout will be much clearer in printed form. Here is the part when the rule of thirds falls apart. A designer does all the hard work, creating the guides, exploring variations, and printing them out. But then he or she decides the middle looks empty and shoves everything there. We're right back to the dull, even layout or donut layout. Resist the donut, or as I call it, the do not. Like any proportional system, the rule of thirds is only a guide. It's not a law. There is no design police force looking for designers who don't use it religiously. In the end, you need to decide what works best optically on the page.